Welcome back to another Linux Gamecast Weekly, the show that covers the latest Linux gaming news, reviews, how-tos, and most importantly, whatever the hell else we come up with. This week, Valve attempts to automate another thing. You can take a guess how that went, and Light hits 1.84. Say cheese and get your cameras ready.
Porn companies can now start developing for the HTC-Vive, and for $3,000, so can you. And want to experience the crowded mess of Pokemon Go without leaving your house? Well, we got you covered, Brad.
While Valve attempts to license the Vive SDK, CSGO Lounge attempts to become a legit gambling website. And the Titan X has been released. Re-released? Well, it's a different architecture, so we can call it that. The new one. Let's go with that.
Oh, so you're talking about the Titan X, not the Titan X.
Yes, the Titan X.
I thought you guys were talking about Marklar.
I'm Vince Stone here at LGC Actual, switching the bits, doing the Nightmare Fuel on Linux, joined by my partners in crime, also on Linux, up north, Massa.
Hello,
Quang.
I'm Marklar.
Marklar.
Oh, well, welcome to Marklar.
And Squanchy McMarklar, Mateus.
And yes, I am the Portuguese Marklar.
All the way from Space Marklar. And joining us live, the better half, maybe, question mark, chat room dynamic. Helping us form that special bit known as Cocaine Voltron. Before we get started, we'd like to see what's going on in each other's life organs. I'll start this off just because it was kind of simple, because PayPal's like, it's been about 10 years. They just spin a wheel. I'm like, you're probably not you. You know that account you've had since 2001? Yeah, today, we just don't feel like you're being you. It's like, okay, what do I got to do? It's like, send us photo ID, social security. They stopped after the photo IDs because I broke out 3 passports from 3 countries, 2 driver's license from 2, and I just immediately got a mail. They were like, all right, we got it. Don't worry about it. Message received.
Yeah, it's like that story from The Salmon of Doubt where the guy's driving around in the U.S. with the UK passport and he drives on the wrong side of the road. Does the same thing in the UK with the US passport.
So what have you been up to, man?
What have I been up to? Fucking around, cooking. That's it. My life is very, very boring. What about you, Pedro? I'm sure you have paragraphs to expound upon.
Not really. Actually, this week was pretty busy at work. Just one thing I want to add to last week's show. You see, this was the some bitch that failed as we were setting up last week. And yeah, the SandForce controller bricked. That's about as far as I got, and there's really no way to fix it outside of replacing the controller, but it's so teeny tiny, and I just can't be asked.
Probably have one thing we manage to beat to death each and every week, but we replace it each and every week, and that's the horse.
I don't think we replace it. We just sort of gather the remains and let it
Reanimator, baby!
Into, something unholy. It's the Steamworks
update.
Let's get right into this, because if you guessed Steam was going to do something stupid, you win a bite-sized Snickers. Permanent bans and GIF restrictions. Back-banned games. Enabled games can either be bought when you can basically, CSGO and stuff like that. And sometimes you see 3-packs or something like that. So you buy a 3-pack if it's really cheap. Maybe give it to your friends a bit later on. But they've added a special level of fuckery to this. If you gift one of those copies, let's say you have one in your inventory right now that you can still gift, and that person gets VAC banned, like perma-VAC banned, you can no longer share any of those games ever again. And like from now on, if I was reading it correctly, correct me if I'm right, is like stuff like that you're just not going to be able to buy multiple gifts for and share later, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
You would have to share them immediately after you purchase them.
Yeah, before you could send them to your email and redeem them later, which a lot of people did because games go on sale or you pick up something in early access that you find out maybe you weren't too interested in, and so you give it to someone else who might be interested in. There's a ton of legitimate uses for gifting shit to yourselves. And they have their little disclaimer at the bottom. We know this impacts legitimate users, but our, token gesture should alleviate the cheating stress. I don't know.
Seriously, did somebody at Valve have a bet and they're like, I bet we can do something stupider than we did last year when we started charging for Skyrim mods, and someone would challenge accepted in a cube somewhere. But Pedro, what would the cheaters? Now, here's something we got to think about. Could they just create 10 separate accounts? But then again, there are restrictions. Can you receive gifts on accounts if you don't like buy, what was it, like £5 worth of
it's
games?
5 minimum, yes.
Right.
But this is an attempt to supposedly cull that. Let's say those hackers had one legitimate account, and they were using that account to provide the rest of their illegitimate accounts with the games that they need, like CSGO, Team Fortress is free now, but the usual ones that actually have some manner of microtransactions that allow you to make some money off of the Steam market.
Mm-hmm.
But supposedly, again, to try and cull the amount of people with fake accounts, buying games for those, doing it from just that one legitimate account, now they will be shafting people who have the audacity, who have, friends with poor judgment. We have a lot of those. We don't judge.
I mean, it is truly a token effort, and really all this actually does is change the order of operations. I get banned and I register for a new account. No, I just register I front load this. I register for 5, 6, 7 accounts, gift the copies immediately to these accounts, and move on. And I'm actually curious what kind of horror stories are going to come out of Valve customer service once this change. Yeah, well, I mean, there's like our Steam horror stories and shit like that.
No, I feel like when you say Valve customer service, we should have like that thing on Pee-wee's Playhouse when they say the magic word of the day.
Yeah, and there's like a talking chair, and we have a laugh track. It's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah.
And I mean, like Ben said, cheaters are gonna cheat, and and really the main thing is identifying cheaters before you have to, and banning them outright before you have to fuck around with all this account nonsense, because all you're doing is inconveniencing legitimate users. The actual cheaters are going to find ways around it.
They are, and it's just like you said, it's the cheaters will just make a fake account which they will use to purchase the games, and then use that fake account to transfer the games to all the other illegitimate accounts.
What this was saying was, I have a bunch of games in my gift inventory. I'm going to spin up another non-banned account or another non-back whatever account and gift them there. No, all I have to do now is create these accounts first. And then when I buy games,
say a bank that allows you to generate a custom or a virtual credit card on the fly, like mine does, you're not even limited on the whole credit card thing that Valve introduced a while back. So
two things to close this out. Every time Valve, you're not Google. Quit trying to automate stuff. You fail miserably. Get some customer service. And instead of all this ass hattery, why don't you just focus on improving, I don't know, VAC bans? That would be brilliant. But on the topic of CSGO.
Yes, you may remember a while back there was that big brouhaha about the custom gun skins in CSGO being, used in gambling websites that were actually relying on the Steam OpenID API. Now, Valve, as we reported a couple of weeks ago, Valve has sent some cease and desist letters to some, if not all, of the websites that are using their OpenID API. Now, Ven, you had a bit in the notes that says that Valve will probably not do anything about it because it's Valve we're talking about.
Well, I mean, it's kind of what I think Valve approaches to basically everything. Like, hey, is that blown over yet? Yeah, that's why we sent out those cease and desist letters that don't really mean anything. And okay, all right, maybe we can get back to making the money because that's what we care about because we don't develop games, right?
So one of those websites actually decided to try and ameliorate the situation to some degree by trying to become themselves a legitimate gambling website. I can't help but think that they're missing the point, because the point here is that Valve doesn't want you to use their API in a gambling website. Period. Whether or not you're legitimate.
That might be true, but they're still going to make money off it because people are still engaging with the Steam marketplace, and they're still getting their cut when stuff changes hands. And really, like Ben said, it blew over. The parents stopped being mad. The gambling sites have made an effort, or they made their token effort and said, okay, well now kids can't do this. Cool. We're going to continue doing this and whatever. Billy's not racking up $300,000 on his mom's credit card. People can calm their tits, and they might start banning accounts, but I don't think they're going to actually litigate. That's about as far as it's going to go.
Yeah, and well, there may be some litigation if a website decides to be spurious in its non-action, as it were, because cease and desist letters usually have lawyers involved, and lawyers usually have money involved. I'm not entirely sure if Valve is one
they
to
charge
throw
per
money
cease and
away.
desist letter. You see where the conflict of interest lies.
Yeah. But yeah, Valve is not just a company that likes to throw money away, but then again, one might make the argument, what about the Steam machines?
They throw plenty of it away because they just use like $100 bills as toilet paper because that company is loaded. But,
oh yes, but speaking of loaded, they would like some more of your money, namely $3,000 if you would like to, say, get access to the SDK for the HTC-Vive tracker. Yeah, you can develop your own, say, hardware like controllers or little knobby things, or even applications that you mount on your desk and you can proceed to shove your dick into. Maybe? Perhaps. But if you want to do it, you will have to pay a $3,000 training session in Seattle as part of the process, according to the Engadget article. Don't worry, there'll be links in the show notes. You can always find it.
You know, I'm not necessarily saying it's going to be like sexing toys or anything like that. That was my first thought.
It's totally going to be sexing
No, man,
toys.
I'm just saying, like, you know, definitely something's going to get released with a hole in it.
So the other interesting thing with this story was there was a bit of a snafu with the article from PCGamer.com. All these links, show notes, yada yada yada. Actually, that's Engadget. I was reading the wrong article. Anyways, it doesn't matter. There was some kerfuffle about this being open sourced or not, because the article originally said open source. People were like, "Oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever!" Then they said, "No, we're licensing it. You have to pay $3,000. You got to fly out to our freaking college course. We're gonna make you write multiple choice tests and grade you, and then we're gonna give you a bunch of sensors. We're gonna give you the lighthouse. We're gonna give you the circuit boards and the SDKs and whatnot." And just going back to the open source note for a second, I think it makes sense that it wasn't fully open sourced because HTC is a co-developer in this, and they don't want their special sauce open to the public just yet.
Yeah, the tracker is the one thing setting the Vive apart from the Oculus Rift at this point, because the Oculus, they have a desk-mounted tracker.
Also the quality of the product, but you know.
Yeah, that too. But yeah, the tracker itself, there's a lot of people saying that the Oculus is actually more comfortable to wear on your face for long periods of time. The Vive is a bit heavier and it's a bit clunkier, so I don't know. Doesn't work under Linux yet. Sorta, kinda.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why are we even talking about this? It's not like you can use a Vive under Linux, man.
Oh, you say that, but now you sort of kind of can. And you might have heard of OSVR. It's the open source virtual reality project. They're working on making free tools for virtual reality. And they finally have some support for the Vive. Now, that doesn't mean that you can just plug in your Vive into your Linux box and away you go. It just means that OSVR, the framework, now has support for interacting with the Vive right away. So you can start to develop your VR thing that it's compatible with the HTC-Vive. But they've also implemented one thing that really astounded me is like, oh yeah, we've implemented this brand new technology, log files. It'll actually output the debug information to a file instead of puking it out on your terminal. And I'm like, wow, that's some next level shit. I wouldn't have thought of that ever, man.
I don't know, man. I'm definitely like looking at that as like, wow. I wonder, maybe we could watch the 360-degree nature videos. That's a ticket.
Yeah, for science purposes, absolutely.
Yes, for science. This is the Steam VR we're talking about. But yeah, no, it's a good thing. And we actually, me and Ven already sort of mentioned this in Linux Weekly Daily Wednesdays. Yeah. So if you watch that show,
hey Pedro, stop plugging our other products. People shouldn't go and watch that entertaining nonsense.
You know, I will, because I'm in it too. So yeah, but it's a good idea. But like I mentioned in Linux Weekly Daily Wednesday, it's the community implemented Vive support before Valve themselves did.
It's also available in Unreal Engine 2. That was included in the patch notes. So if you want to start using that right off the bat, you can. But, you know, what is it good for then?
Oh, man, let's talk about the best, worst kept secret on the interwebs. Feral, the fantastic folks, carbon-based entities, at least 90% of them, the other 10%, they're shifty. You got to watch out for them.
Yeah, those Argon-based motherfuckers.
Total Warhammer will be coming. You know, they released, you know, how Feral likes to do. They're like, oh, you'll never guess what we're playing. And like 9 nanoseconds later, they're like Total War Warhammer. Like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, that is how that got announced.
Yeah, that's definitely how it does. They're saying it's going to be released in autumn, so effectively somewhere between September 22nd and December 20th. Hopefully it has nothing to do with Warner Brothers and gets canceled midway through. I was looking at the game and I was kind of scrolled down and I saw RTS as opposed to turn-based strategy. I was happy, Vin was very happy, and I heard it's kind of a good one, right?
Yeah, from what I've heard, people who aren't typically into real-time strategy games or Warhammer actually found this fairly engaging, and of course we got the obligatory for those who find Dungeons and Dragons infinitely too complicated. But yeah, no, we've been getting Warhammer games on Linux for about 2 years now, so this is just Games Workshop keeping up with the cross-platform support that they've been applying to the Warhammer IP. It's good. I'm actually interested in taking a crack in it. I was kind of hoping for Dawn of War, but you know, I guess so was literally everyone else.
Yeah, it's an RTS. Farrell's been doing the Total War porting for basically, well, since Total War 2. And I don't care. It's RTS.
In closing, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Up next, look at my horse. It's Snowboard.
Is amazing.
Yeah, this is Snow Horse. It's a game that's available on Steam. And it's a snowboarding game in which you play a horse that snowboards, and you do snowboarding things. You go on snowboard tracks, you do tricks, flips, whatever. I actually like snowboarding games. I was a big fan of shit like SSX Tricky back on the PlayStation 2. So I might actually check this out if it just has some solid snowboarding mechanics. Beyond that, it's a fucking horse, man. But it does require the elusive Linux 10.7 to run. You may not have an advanced kernel like that, so you should definitely install Arch Linux because they have it in the AUR somewhere.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I'm pretty sure they reversed the Mac and Linux requirements because if you go to Mac OS, it's a snowboarding horse game. It can run on anything. And then on Linux, it has Linux 10.7.
No, I mean, clearly you're just living in the past. They haven't invented Linux 10 in Space Portugal. It's great, too, because you can plug your iPhone in, and then it leaks all your personal information to Apple. It's kind of brilliant. But it's a snowboarding game, it's on Steam, and it has a horse. So that is definitely a thing. But up next, it's appropriate for the Steam Linux update of the week, but up next we have, I think, the closest thing we're going to get to The Martian, the game. This is near death. And basically your goal is to not freeze to death in this game.
Oh, man, what the hell? I thought he was about to science the shit out of that door.
He might. I mean, there's definitely the option. I mean, we have a lot of man versus government, man versus man, man versus society that gets explored a lot in games. Lately, the survival genre has sort of taken with stuff like The Long Dark and North, saying, well, why don't we just have the enemy be nature itself, and your goal is to not die. And that's basically this game. Don't die in the Antarctic. So it's the thing. It's priced to sell at about $15 Canadian. I wouldn't call that necessarily price to sell. If you like survival, it's definitely a thing. I don't know. Pedro, Ben, you got anything to say about it?
Well, since we're talking about survival, we might as well kick off to the next story because it's also a survival game.
Survival.
Frozen State. Survival. Yeah. Yes, Frozen State. A big kudos to the devs for sending us the keys for this one. They actually made with 3 keys. So chances are we may actually throw chairs at this one at some point.
Oh.
Yeah, this is Frozen State. It's a helicopter view third-person survival game.
I thought you were going to say helicopter parent, and I was going to be infinitely amused. Go ahead.
I thought you were going to say helicopter penis. And I was going to be immediately aroused.
Yeah, no. It's I actually tried it earlier today. It's a bit janky on the movement because your character actually follows like the mouse cursor to aim at stuff, and say you're moving around and you move the cursor somewhere else.
So it's like Brigador?
No, not exactly. You can actually move the camera around this time. So, but yeah, no, your character, let's say you're moving a certain way and you're looking a certain other way, and if you move the mouse to the other side of your character will tend to stop. And that's a bad idea when you're trying to run away from stuff that's following you, like the monsters and the zombies and what have yous. Yeah, it's currently very positive on Steam. So take it for what it is, I suppose. It's $12.
It's sort of reminded me of sort of what if you tried, at least from the screenshots at least, what if you tried to make Snake Eater with the Metal Gear Solid 1 engine, which I guess could be a decent game. I don't know. Given the way Pedro described the controls, I don't think I would enjoy that particularly well. But they did send us keys, so we're probably going to throw some chairs at it at some point.
Yes.
But it's the 5.0. We have the last story of the Steam Linux.
And no one picked it. Anyone want to take it?
No, I will. This is The Police. This is a game about managing a corrupt police department. So it's basically sirens and spreadsheets.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Detroit, but go ahead.
No, because this place actually has a police force despite it being corrupt.
Oh,
and yeah, as opposed to the Thunderdome that is Detroit. Send your hate mail to. I kid, because no one actually has power in Detroit.
It's been a long time since I've seen Sound Blaster compatible listed as a
Listen, you need to have that 32-bit PCI bus to get the warmth. Otherwise, it's just too compressed and electronic, right?
Right.
Yeah, but it's basically like an adventure game with some force management stuff in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a bit pricey for what it is. The art style is kind of neat. It's sort of like a cel shaded Art Deco type thing, but I don't know if it's exactly my beef.
I was reading the user tags for the game that they have set in the Steam store there, and I fell asleep right around the management tag. It's like spreadsheets. Nope.
So Ben, what do you think about the 5.0?
Yeah, man, it was a really horrible death trap made by Ford. Bad brakes, ragtop. Overall, not a good vehicle.
All right. Well, I guess let's close this segment off. So coming up next, oh my God, there's a new Titan. It's not the same as the old Titan. I was gonna make a Megadeth reference, but my brain farted.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we take this time to interrupt your regularly scheduled porn segment to bring you a very special thank you to everyone who keeps making this possible.
Wait, we have a porn segment? What the shit? Why haven't you people told me? You bastards! You heartless sons of bitches! But you know who aren't heartless sons of bitches? The fine people who fund this nightmare fuel, this train wreck, the Patreons, the donors. You can kick on over to patreon.com/LinuxGameCast. We're, $14 away from making Pedro stream stuff. Oh God, don't make him do that, guys. Yeah, actually do it. It gives him a bigger opportunity to make an asshole of himself. No, but we got some lovely human beings to thank this week on our Patreons. Kim T. Vascott and Ted Chadzors kicked in some money over PayPal. Because, if you don't want to support us via Patreon, there are other means. We got Amazon affiliate links. If you actually scroll down to the very bottom of LinuxGameCast.com, you have the Amazon affiliate links for you to click and purchase stuff on Amazon. It helps us out for nothing on your end aside from clicking a link. We also have some PayPal links as well if you want to donate through that, because Ven had to prove, of course, that he is Mr. Ven Stone on the PayPal, because there are so many other imposters. Only accept genuine Nintendo verified Ven Stones. But we have a bit of a giveaway too, don't we, Ven?
Yeah, man, we totally gave away we had two games. We had a copy of Prey Day 2 and a copy of Skullgirls, and we gave that away to patrons. Said, you know what? In the comment for that post that went out on the Patreons, if you're a Patreon, just, because we want to do something a little extra special on top of, some of the exclusives. You get the timed ones with the stuff that we do just for our Patreons. If you want to just say the word gimme, we're going to do the same thing this week, except it's just for Skullgirls. So if you really want a game that is F you hard, and I'm too old to play, and Pedro will just annihilate you with it, playing with his toes.
There's a special controller for that, by the way.
Yeah, we're definitely going to throw you a copy of that. So when you see the post go live on Patreon tomorrow, or any time between then and this time next week, traveling to the future with us, it will be magical. just write gimme, because I think it really confuses people who visit our page and have no idea what's going on, and they read the comments and it's just a bunch of gimmies, and it kind of makes me happy. And it's a key, so we'll definitely throw that. We'll randomize it like we did on Wednesday, our other show that we do. Check that out. Another shameless plug for that. And we will hand it over to you free of charge. So
losers get shock treatment, because you gotta gimme shock treatment.
Good times. But this week on the news, we don't start with some drivers. Sorry, Truggy, we don't. But we start with the Titan X. Wait, didn't this release like 2 years ago? Mm-hmm. Oh no, that was the old one, right? This is the Pascal one.
No, this is the Titan XP, right?
Yeah, well, that's what they're
I thought it was Titan now.
But NVIDIA decided to take, like I said last week, they decided to take the Shield naming scheme on board, and they decided to call the new Pascal Titan the Titan X, like it was with the Maxwell architecture, because that makes sense, right? But yeah, you probably have already heard the news. It's about 35% faster than the GTX 1080 and about 60% faster than the old Titan X. So yeah, you're basically paying $1,200 to get a 35% to get a 35% increase in performance over the 1080, which is currently going for like $630. That's almost a 100% premium.
Or if you prefer performing sexual favors to Ubuntu-based distribution maintainers, that is also a thing you can do. But this is even the most advanced card that NVIDIA has on the market now, because Ven actually posted this on G+ earlier this week. They have the new Quadro, the NVS card, the enterprise-grade version of this, which actually has more cores unlocked on top of that and 24 gigs of RAM.
Yeah, they basically said in that article, is like, yeah, this Quadro thingy, it's an uncrippled Titan X, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what the shit? If you're going to be spending that much money, you might as well just plop down for the enterprise grade card, because you need to do natural language computation or a bunch of ray tracing. Who knows?
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
One of the things I noticed is all the reviews for the Titan X is like lockstep, because you get your marching orders from NVIDIA. It's like, here's the list of things that you can benchmark.
Well, we talked about that a couple weeks ago with the review document.
But I mean, it's just interesting to actually just see it in action, like every review site. And I mean, it's like almost the exact same games, but like you said, man, that is the price you have to pay for access, and that's why we don't get any.
Hashtag Nuremberg defense. But
of course, we would just run GFX Bench GL, so they probably don't want that.
Well, you got to test libxml too as well. I mean, that's the true measure of any game's performance, or any GPU's performance for that matter. But speaking of performance and games that I don't really know what the hell's going on, Voxel Quest, they have a release out. What is it? You never heard of it? This was a successful Kickstarter. Currently, it's Windows only, actually, but this guy has gone and put up a GitHub so you can download the source, because apparently that is the thing. When you don't feel like maintaining your Kickstarter project, you put it up on GitHub and have other people finish it for you. Currently, it's Windows only. Look at all these bat files, man. This is your build system. Oh well, at least they have a CMake directory, so you can CMake this. So if there are any Linux programmers who want to make a very, very vaguely defined game actually run, it's like sandbox world creation something or other. I read through their entire Kickstarter, and I'm not quite sure what this game actually is. Does anyone have anything?
I have no idea. Looking at the screenshots and the way that they described the game on their website, it's Jack of all Minecraft, the video game. Because you have the adventure mode, you have the casual mode, and you have the sandbox mode.
But is it a game you play, or do you just like make worlds, or what?
I have no idea.
All I see is when I look at this, especially looking at the screenshots, it was like, yeah, this was a successfully funded 35,000 wet stinky cash Kickstarter. This is how far the project got before.
Well, they asked for 30, they got 35.
Oh, that's right. I'm overfunded Kickstarter. No wonder. At least they opened the sauce, and maybe somebody will go back and build a sensible build system.
I think
build
it
an
needs
actual
some turbulent
game
juice. Like when Manly Michaels attack, you got to use open voxel to get the turbulent juice up in the juice.
Wow, ooh-wee. Because we got something about Light 184. Okay, this game's so old that back in the day, it was one of the best-looking games available for Linux. I know you're looking at it now going, Vin, really? And I was like, yeah, it looks like... No, never mind, sorry. We'll be talking about that later. Couple of new things in this. Yeah, the biggest ones, you got an external camera view, multiple pews for your ships, the galactic chart interface, which, let's get back down here. That is actually kind of cool. I played with that for a little bit. And improvement to the overall presentation and UI. So, yeah, this is fun to play around with. I've enjoyed it billions of years ago in the future's past, outside of like loading, and I was like, hey, it looks, it runs, and there's a camera. Didn't get to put a lot of time in it because it's not on Steam, and I've become that horrible person where I'm like, no.
Oh, but you're using a proprietary client on Linux.
Through Lutris. Listen, you can install through Lutris. For those of you who don't know what Elite is, this is because we're not actually getting that Linux port of Elite Dangerous ever. You can get the open source reimagining of the original Elite. So this is a thing. It's a free game. We love supporting free open source games because they give us shit to do when Steam goes down. But you gotta catch them all. And this is Pokemon.
Nintendo's gonna sue somebody.
Oh yeah, this is Pokemon Revolution Online. This has actually been around for a while. They've recently made with the Linux support, but essentially this is Pokemon the MMO. And I had a friend who actually played this because I was made aware of this a couple of years ago. I was kind of curious, but a friend told me, yeah, I played this. It basically has the synergy effect of you're injecting multiplayer into a game engine that fundamentally does not support it, and therefore it's just a gigantic fustercluck of shit all over the place. This does.
Yep. That's really all that is. I got before I realized I didn't give a damn.
Oh no, there is some fucked up screenshots of like the entire map area just being covered in players. You can't make out what the fuck actually is going on in the background. It's kind of miserable. But if you like your Pokemon, you want to play online with other people's and don't want to buy a Nintendo DS to play your Pokemon Sun and Moon, this is something that may be taken down by Nintendo at any moment.
And it's built in Unity. So we've already had a Unity project trying to recreate a Nintendo game that was, well, basically shut down by them. That old Mario 64.
Right. But at the same time, they were straight up saying, yeah, no, we're just porting Mario 64. They ripped a ton of assets from the game too, which was kind of a no-no. If they make all this shit from the ground up, they're sort of kind of in the clear. Nintendo can still bring down their scary lawyer folks, but
they still call the Pokemons by their actual names, and those are kind of under copyright.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Pedro was like, oh, this is horrible. This is as far as I made it. But did you play that ridiculous Maple Story?
Yes, I did. Back in 2007 and 8.
Okay.
That's where I met Nori, actually.
Grab your throw pillows, folks. It's time to take a nap as Pedro goes down memory lane. But we're not going to subject you to that. Coming up next, we go through the Fargate. It's not like a Stargate at all, not at all like the movie or the syndicated television series. It's more pixely, has worse visual effects than a show from 1996. So. Beam me up, Snotty. We are throwing chairs at Starbound. I was about to say Farbound. I had to stop myself. It's from Chucklefish. It's C++ based custom SDL engine. I think it's actually somewhat based on Mono as well. That might just be Terraria, and I'm confusing these two. Who knows? Well, these guys. Anyways, it's priced at about 13 euros or around 15 of your local space currency. And what is it? Starbound is an extraterrestrial sandbox adventure game. You fled your home only to find yourself lost in space with a damaged ship and Joey from Friends. Your only option is to beam down to the planet and gather resources you need to repair your ships and set off to explore the vast, infinite universe. We also got our CHAIRQUISITION that we're just going to apply to this. 1 chair means that it's garbage, 2 chairs means that it's meh, 3 chairs means that it's pretty good, 4 chairs means it's amazing. We also got our categories of Doom, mixed with the working, shiny sounds, controls, and fun. So let's kick this off. Then, how did Starbound work?
Over here on the Ubuntu 1404 LTS, now running a 4.0 kernel because we're trying baby steps before we take the plunge. With the 980 and displayed at the 4Ks, aka UHD, because it's not really 4K. One small issue. Overall, everything worked. But maybe once every other day or once every time you try to start it, it attempts to start and it goes, you know what? Nah. And just kills out. Hit play again, it'll start up. Not the only one having this issue. Not necessarily an issue limited to the Linux. Also, Winbros had the same problem. But not enough to ding it a chair because genuinely I've never had one instance where clicking play and it launching again. You know, because sometimes you're like, did I click play? Maybe not. And it comes up. So you get the little chuckle fish. No issues. 4 chairs.
Yeah, on Fedora 24, 64-bit with the i7-6700K and the GTX 980, everything worked right off the box. Everything runs into acceptable frame rate, no real issues. Although sometimes when attempting to join multiplayer games, like when we streamed that earlier, you should check that out on Twitch, it'll just hard lock freeze. Gotta go and kill that from the terminal. But beyond that, 4 chairs.
Yeah, and over here with Ubuntu Mate 1604.1, it ran out of the box, I guess, with the FX8370E and the GTX 1080. Absolutely no issues. 4 chairs.
All right, that's 4 chairs. So mixed working. Up next is the shiny and the sounds. Ven, they're squares, aren't they?
Oh, man. If you know anything about me, hipster pixel graphics, a number, fuck that business. That's all I got to say about that. And this is like almost patient not for hipster pixel resurgence because this game's been around since forever, man. I think what's it been in develop now? Like 3-5 years?
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Predates Steam on Linux when you come to think about that. It's not ugly. I mean, it's done well. It's as good as you can do hipster pixel. Jordan, I don't want to steal his thing, but like a certain game, I mean, you can do it right. This game doesn't necessarily do it right. It's a hipster pixel game. I just don't like it. I don't like the way it looks. It smells bad. It said a disparaging remark about my mother with its pixelness. It does have sounds, I guess. Never really heard them. Most of the sounds were me screaming and wailing anytime I had to switch from mindlessly mining shit to, oh, there's an enemy. Fuck. These controls. Oh, wait, we'll get into that in the control section. But for shiny and sounds, technically, shit showed up on my screen and things went to my headset, so I will give it 2.
Yeah, they're pixels and colorful. That's really all I could say about it. So, like, yeah, you can complain about the resurgence of like hipster pixel games and how somehow you're downloading a 3 gigabyte game that consists entirely of sprites, but these are like HD, like 8K sprites that are just compressed down. But I mean, you can do pixel art well. You have games like Super Brothers Sword and Sorcery, Shovel Knight, and Hyperlife Drifter that all prove that you can do pixel art and make it aesthetically pleasing. I would go so far as to say beautiful in the case of Super Brothers and Hyperlight. But this is just kind of meh. Like Ven said, the sounds are there, but it's limited to various crafting and mining sounds that you just sort of check away as background noise as you basically pump up your Vader and just try to make the best of the time you're playing Starbound. I keep trying to call it Terraria, but that's not right. It is 2 chairs for shiny and sounds though.
It does look a lot like Terraria. Then it is absolutely, completely unremarkable. The sounds are there to provide a bit of feedback, but they don't exactly do a spectacular job of it. The graphics are there so you can see what you're doing, but they don't exactly make you barf rainbows out from every orifice either. Can you tell that the art was made by the exact same person who made the visuals for Terraria? It's not obvious at all. 2 chairs.
This game has something to do with Terraria? I would have guessed that.
Yeah.
That's 2 chairs for shiny and sounds. Up next is Control. Then I hear you had some issues.
It is brilliant because ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I believe what we have here as a final 1.0 game is something that is definitely in the lead for the worst user interface of 2016. Now, there will probably be a challenger or two that might appear later on this year, but for right now, I don't think anything can really hold a chainsaw to it.
Brigador.
Well, what I'm talking about, this is basically a point-and-click game, and when you're point-and-click shit on 28 inches of, oh, jeez, you're just doing this, trying to survive, you're like, keyboard shortcuts, and I'm like, those are horribly done as well, and there's no logical way to do it. Wait, it's a platforming, platforming, but control, no, that doesn't, so much is wrong. And much more will be explained if you're watching the produced version of this. If you're watching live, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you'll see the ass-hattery we're involved in on the screen behind me. I think this is a perfect example of, just shite getting tacked on over the years when it came to just this kludge of an interface this game has, when it was clear that before it was released, because we talked about what they meant by released, clearly an overhaul was needed of the entire user interface, especially with, when you're looking at inventory and stuff like that, popping up in the middle of the screen, just bad form. Stupid stuff like that in spades. That's really my main contention with this game. I found myself not frustrated with I'm not going to spoil the fun. The main thing I was frustrated with that killed this game for me was just the shit controls all around. I'm going to say they're busted. I mean, technically you can play the game, but, technically I can play in traffic on the freeway.
So, did you get that score?
One chair.
All right. So I've made it clear before, and as you saw in the previous version, I can't platform with WASD. I fall over the place because I'm used to strafing and FPS movement with WASD, and that does not translate well at all into platformers. So I picked up the Steam controller, and lo and behold, it did the thing. But the UI is completely non-intuitive via controller. I tried for about 5 minutes and put that down and went back to keyboard and mouse as I suffered through it. Otherwise the controls work. The UI definitely has problems. The first and foremost is the fact that it's fucking tiny. And Ben and I have this problem because we have big ass screens that are like 28 inches at 4K. But like all the icons are just so tiny. I find myself having to move the microphone out of the way while we were playing and like get my face right up close to the screen so I could figure out which of the icons were the things that I had built. So yeah, the crafting thing it's annoying because it pops up in the middle of your screen. You can drag it away, but it forever will show up. And Roommate, who will defend this game to the death, hates that as well. So it gets sting to chair. Otherwise, it works. The controls will control. You'll move from point A to point B, but it also does that weird Powerpuff Girls Defender of Townsville thing where the direction you're walking and the direction you're facing are two different things. And it's just kind of weird. 3 chairs.
Yeah, basically just to reiterate everything Fed and Jordan already said, the UI needs a revamp badly. Like, really, really bad. Also, another thing that Jordan also mentioned, if you're giving people an option to zoom in the options menu, why would that not apply to the UI? Really? Really? Even at 1080p, because these two monitors right here are 1080p, I have to squint to make out what some of those 16 by 16 icons are in my inventory. It's bad. The controls themselves, they work, and if you really have a mistress of your own and you must play with a control, sure, you can do it. But that UI really, really needs a revamp. That's 3 chairs.
All right, so that's 2 chairs for control. There was an error in the maths for the sheet, so I got to fix that. Finally, we got fun. Ben, you had super happy fun time. Tell us about it.
We've given this game, or at least I believe that we have given this game every single opportunity to do something for us. And yes, before you start typing and white knighting, because I know I've read the reviews, like, this game's impervious to critique, it's a masterpiece. Well, we're 3 yahoos wearing wizard robes. You're smarter than us. So don't argue with people on the internet that you're smarter with. Just be like, hey man, save your time. You're right. We're going to be wrong. That said, fuck this game. If Team Cocaine Voltron can't find a way to make multiplayer and a game fun, You got problems, son, and you got them bad. This does have them really bad. When you watch the produced version, we'll put that up. You can watch it right now on Twitch. Audio is a little funky, but I'll put a produced version up for Patreons, and it'll come out later for everyone else. We genuinely get to the point where we're just all randomly walking around doing our own things, talking about weather and shit. Because, like, what are we supposed to be doing? And Jordan's like, collect plants. Why? Because we can craft. Oh, okay. Oh, crafting, that sounds horrible. Like the rest of the game. The crafting system never got into. Why? Because I initially found the game way back when. I have over 3 hours into this as well. Hella underwhelming. It's 2D Minecraft. I didn't like Minecraft. Now, I did have an idea that we should have been drawing penises into the actual surface. And I was like, damn, why didn't we do that? Might have had some fun doing that. Then where's the new content? Like I said, 3 years. And, you know, we've had this game. We got it billions of years ago. Again, I'm not like Jordan's roommate. I'm not up this game's rectum. I can't tell the difference from when I played it all those years ago to I played it now. I was like, yeah, it looks like the same fucking game. The biggest difference, what I've noticed is reading through the comments, is they ripped out a lot of shit. Yeah. Some people like to talk about like feature creep, like we're talking about the UI just a minute ago and how that just like got tacked on and it's turned into a kludge mess. The one thing that's worse than that is ripping out features, and apparently they did that to quite an extent. And the random generated worlds, they're randomly generated, empty, boring, meh, don't care, not fun. Now that I know what I'm supposed to be doing, because when I played with Jordan and Pedro, I was like, do this. And I was like, shut the fuck up. Give me a minute. I don't know how to do A before I get here. And still, after learning all that, and I was like, why am I doing it? I don't understand. But maybe Jordan has a different opinion. But yeah, run away because of chairs coming after you, baby.
I tried, you guys. I tried really, really hard. I thought, hey, man, Terraria on Linux, and you have spaceships, and you fly around, and you go to different planets. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like spaceships. I like going to other planets and games. But, I mean, it really boils down to this sort of game doesn't appeal to me at all. Like, I got into Minecraft back when, like, you had to pay $10 for the alpha license. Mm-hmm. And I played it with friends, and really the only enjoyment I got was I was socializing with my friends and playing a game. I got bored really, really quickly. And with this game, it's the same thing. After 20 minutes, I get bored out of my skull. And no amount of time in early access is going to fix this. I mean, the crafting system is okay. The UI reminds me a lot of the old Ultima games, which, you know, I have some nostalgia for. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's just, so there are bosses, there are things you can explore, there are missions that I just can't be arsed to engage with because the gameplay is just so long and boring and tedious and meticulous that I just can't derive any enjoyment from it. I've actually seen some of the in-game stuff because Roommate plays a lot of it with his friends. And at that point, it seems kind of interesting when they have all sorts of ray guns and monsters and summons and magical effects. But I don't have the time or the patience to just get there. And I just don't enjoy the game. I'm sorry, guys. One chair.
Yeah, personally, I don't hate it. I feel like this kind of game, let's go with that for now. It can only be judged fairly when it's compared to its genre peers, as it were. On Linux, you get your Minecrafts and your you actually have Terraria now. And in that subset of games / creativity toys, this is definitely more of a game than, say, Minecraft. Minecraft was the true sandbox where you had nothing and you had to create everything, including your own amusement. Here, you have a little story prelude and the entire gameplay seems to be geared more towards exploration, more so than it was in Minecraft, almost in a 2D platformer Skyrim kind of way. Minecraft, like I mentioned, was more heavily focused on crafting. In fact, If crafting is such a big deal in this game, and they really want you to think it is, why is the crafting UI so arse backwards? Why do I need to craft an inventor's desk to be able to craft a wooden workbench so then I can create a hoe? Yeah. Why
is it a dirty hoe, Pedro?
Yeah. No. But okay, another example. Let's see if my character is starving. 10 times out of 7, I will die because I can't figure out which of the amenities I need to use in order to bake a loaf of bread. Because I will have them all laid out, and I will go through each and every single one of them, and by the time I get to the right one, it's just at the right time where my character just drops dead. But even with all that said, I don't hate it. Ven couldn't really find where the content was, and there are a lot of people saying that some of the content was removed. Personally, after having played over 10 hours in early access when they first released it on Linux, that very first version, I saw more content in the first 3 hours I've put into the post-release 1.0 than I did in those previous 10 hours. There's a lot of content here. You just have to be the kind of person who goes looking for it instead of just having it handed to you, as it were. Also, it's a 2D platformer that I personally don't get sick of after 10 minutes. If this means anything, it's that if we ever throw chairs at Salt and Sanctuary, probably Ven's not going to like that either. 3 chairs.
All right, so that tallies up to 1 chair for fun, and we're gonna take the grand total of 2 whole chairs for Starbound, which I was about to call Terraria, and I had to stop myself because, god damn it, this is the same frickin' game. Final thoughts.
Well, I think what Pedro was kind of glossing over is like, well, when I first played it didn't have content. And when I played it, it had more content. You didn't mention about playing it during the 3 mothering years where all the content was added.
Yeah, no, admittedly,
I
did not.
With a straight fucking face say they didn't take a fuckload out of this game. Because they did, Brad. They did. I want to quote Devis I'm sorry if I got your name right. He said, wait for another release when they can put the last 3 years worth of work back into the game. So, I mean, that's a bit telling, and I think it's a bit correct. I think, see, that we have what we call early access hell when something gets stuck in feature creep and shit like that, and when you start out with something that's, well, to me, anyway, like I said, there's some people like, this game's so great, give me all of its dicks. It's just like, for me, it's like, meh, no matter how long it stays in EA, in Genesis, when it's meh, and it releases, it's like, it's meh with a point release. Good on you, buddy. And then you worry about games like Distance, because Distance isn't going to hold its age forever. It's like when it first came out, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Now it's like, looks all right. Kind of worried about that. So maybe they're going to get some of the stuff added back to it. And, you know, of course, Strider in Chat Realm right now has the right idea. You know, wait for a later on release. You know, treat this like a Ubuntu LTS. Run away from the first one and, give it a few months. Pedro?
Yeah. Well, chances are you already know whether or not you like this game. Did you like Terraria? This is basically that, but in space. Did you like Minecraft, but the voxely 3D didn't do it for you, or you thought that you'd like the exploration to be emphasized a bit more than the crafting? Starbound and Terraria itself will probably scratch that itch.
Yeah, there are people who like this game. Mm-hmm. I am not one of them. I know and I've talked to people who are super into it, and something in this game clicked for them.
Yeah,
good for you. If this is your sort of game, have at. If you want my glowing recommendation, you're not going to find it here. But coming up next, we got a big hate mail segment, and Pedro's ego is going to get so inflated, he might just pop. Ladies and
gentlemen, boys and girls, you should totally watch this live. It's a hell of a lot more sexy. But this is the hate mail. Yes, my personal favorite time of the show. If you'd like to get in touch with us, you can just leave a comment whenever you see the show posted somewhere, be it the Google Pluses, the Twitters, the Facebooks, or even Patreon. If you're one of our Patreons, You're awesome. But if you, let's say you just want to indulge the inner troll, you can also leave us a comment on YouTube, or you can go on over to LinuxGameCast.com, hit the contact button on the nav bar, fill out the form, it's easy enough. Leave us your message, and if it's pertinent enough, we will feature it. So, this week, we have, ooh, pedantry. I like it. Mr. Aaron P. says that pedant mode engage. It's Maniac Mansion, not Manic Mansion. Sorry, I'll get off your lawn now. No, dude, that's wrong. You own up to your pedantry. You do it. If you're on the internet and you leave a comment on a YouTube video, you own up to it. Don't apologize. Come on.
Pedro Mateus, purveyor of bad etiquette since 2009.
Goddamn right.
Aaron, if you send me a Titan X. Okay.
All right. I promised Rohit I'd read this one. So this is from, as I mentioned, Rohit in chat realm. He asked me to do this in the most annoying voice possible. So excuse me, I believe my bank suggested she's the new pair of pants for the title in the last LGC episode. You're butchering my golden words. Got the title's absurdity and humor by 75%. Your only path to atonement is to ask all your viewers to vote whatever our bank suggested tonight. No. Bad Rohit.
Well, he's already kind of taking credit for it.
Just pray I don't alter the deal further. Okay. But speaking about voting, people off the island.
And whaling.
Whaling Fungus. Not the big 04, not to be confused with Whaling Fungus 37. Writes, I was listening to episode 206 when I heard something that was quite disturbing. Period, no space, some Chad, comma, who will remain nameless, suggested that our beloved Pedro leave the show, ? How dare he? Well, he is entitled to his opinion, no matter how wrong he is. LinuxGameCast has been my favorite Ooh, man, really? Ouch.
It's a low bar, Ben.
Because of Pedro and Vin.
Ouch.
Oh, hell. Even Jordan. All right. You might need to seek professional help, my friend. You can't break up the band. Hashtag Yoko. Anyway, I, for one, strongly oppose Pedro missing any episode. Just to say something Linux-related, I recently switched to Mint 18, which is our favorite distribution, and could not be happier. Hashtag LGC cares, lads.
Well, I mean, I just want to say that Whaling Fungus 3 was their best album, and when they finally released Whaling Fungus 4, they completely sold out. It was a lot more sonically simple. It was all the catchy beats and riffs just weren't there. Whaling Fungus 2 was even a better album. I'm just going to say that here.
My ego's all right with this.
Well, goddamn, son, he's about to become insufferable.
Don't encourage him, people. Otherwise, you're just going to get him grinding on his webcam eventually. It'll happen, mark my words. But our last
to
hate mail.
He says, Mr. Matthews, you've been with the show for years, and as the Svang says, Cocaine Voltron is a triumvirate. The show would suck major ass without you, so please ignore the ass banjo who wants you gone. /hate. Thank you. Also, I will not become insufferable because the more inflated my ego gets, the less insecure I get.
Also, I have a spray bottle, and I punish Pedro like you would a cat clawing at furniture. Every time he gets a little too uppity, I give him a spritz. No, it's a bad Pedro.
Even if you disregard that, the more inflated my ego gets, the quieter I become because I'm not that insecure. I don't need to justify myself as much at that point. So, all right.
That bombshell, cue the music. You can always find us around 9:30 Eastern time. Type that into the Googs. It'll figure it out, do the maths for you, and possibly provide a link to the show. I'm Vinstone, cleverly disguised at Vinstone on the Twitter nets, plus Vinstone on the Google+. If you want to scream at me, I'll scream right back in your face.
I am the sock puppet master Jordan Svung. You can find me pulling the strings or sticking my hands into holes and controlling things at the Burning Pool on Twitter, plus Jordan Svung on Google+.
At one point I was the brown puppet, but now I am just Plage Marizzo. You can find me at Unaccounted For on Twitter or Plus Pedro Mateos on Google+.
And I think from now on, Jordan, every time Pedro references Plage Marizzo on the show, we're going to buy him an extremely hot hat with like beads and shit on it, and we'll make it way.
No, it'll be like one of those beer hats.
It'll be like the wizard robe material doesn't breathe. He has to wear it the entire show for the next week.
Yeah, no, like I said, I'm thinking of maybe like the Homer Simpson beer helmet, except with like tea kettles on there. That's
yeah.
Drink it up, Pedro. Drink it up.
He loves it.
Tasty. It's salty, isn't it? Tastes good on the back of your throat.
See, well, the audio listeners can't. We need to describe what's really going on. For your video listeners, you know we're lying.
I think I can describe it in a single onomatopoeia. Good night, folks.
Cheers.
5 dudes.